Greetings. Gaming has taken over a significant portion of the entertainment industry. Franchises like Pokemon are bigger than Star Wars, and that's a fact that sounds even strange to me. And the revenue is gigantic. But I think gaming is just a generic term. Countless people are playing virtual games, but that doesn't mean they have any interest in gaming as part of human culture. Today, I'd like to explain what makes this hobby so great and how it goes far beyond simple entertainment. We take a look at this from a social perspective and we talk about the industry in general. As a millennial born in the mid-80s, I can't say I experienced the birth of the industry, since the beginnings of something pretty close to a video game date back to the 50s. But I was at least able to witness an enormous rise, in my opinion, to its qualitative peak after the turn of the millennium till 2015 or so. As a whole, video games are an incomparable form of art. If a video game is complex in structure, gameplay, narrative, and audiovisual content, a tremendous range of skills is required from the developers, at least as long as they want to be among the best. These include skills also needed for photography, writing a novel, drawing or painting. Therefore, gaming studios or individual developers are all of these: directors, actors, writers, artists and designers. And that's all before we even discuss the development and integration of the game mechanics. I don't think video games in general have the reputation they deserve, even so there are honorable exceptions. For example, it's considered perfectly normal to present yourself as a film fan, and the regular consumption of books is often considered as a sign of education or intellectual abilities. But mentioning to neutral people that you're a passionate gamer is often a bit like admitting that you decided to use your life as little as possible. Especially here in Germany, a country that, for its importance and reputation, is technologically in many ways completely antiquated, and especially in the digital segment. Therefore, gaming and the financial opportunities it offers are largely viewed with dismissive skepticism, or they're completely ignored. I'm missing also the realization that games have long gone beyond the status of a simple entertainment medium and also address critical issues like racism, addictions, or mental illness. I've never considered gaming as a time killer, even though you can use games just for passing the time. In fact, I rarely get bored in a classic sense, so I have no reason to do that. At its best, gaming provides you with an enriching experience, similar to what vacations or special events might. Especially in younger years, I spent a lot of time gaming, but even back then it was rarely about quantity, like the playtime or number of games. In fact, I never miss gaming when I'm doing other things. While gaming can be certainly seen as a tool for mindless consumption, the experience, this unique combination of audiovisual and intellectual entertainment, is what makes it so special. I'm drawn to titles that immerse you in the world and offer strong characters, good dialogue and complex backgrounds, like it is with movies and books. Of course, there's nothing wrong with enjoying simple games, but these also need something special to draw me in, be it a specific gameplay mechanic or the visual design of the game. Despite that, my personal selection is a bit limited. I admit I have relatively high standards. I am old, detail obsessed, and always have something to complain about. But when I find something I really like, it's often a special experience. Like visiting an amazing place or having a great time at an event. Gaming definitely doesn't replace these things that exist in the so-called real life. But people who experience gaming only on a surface level often don't understand the passion that can lie behind it. It's a bit like asking a passionate photographer, why don't you just take pictures with your smartphone? Regarding gaming, one could certainly argue that the problem here is that you're not creating anything yourself. But could a developer create a really great game if they weren't a fan and consumer of games themselves? Although this video wouldn't exist if I weren't so interested in the hobby. The superficial idea of society is always that our time must be used optimally, in a way that is socially acceptable. But wisely spent time should always be about doing something that is worth doing for you, where joy and usefulness are in balance. Yes, there are people losing themselves in the game to an unhealthy extent, but that goes for everything in life. Everything we do, everything we like, can be used excessively, to the point where we lose control. But this balance is different for each person and cannot simply be determined or applied universally. And of course there are also social aspects to gaming, both competitive and cooperative. Gaming connects might sound a bit cheesy, but sometimes it actually does. Every passionate gamer has probably a specific game or a moment where he was so impressed that it stuck to their memory. In my case, it was the first time I played a role-playing game, Secret of Mana. Seeing how the previously strict side-scrolling world suddenly opened up was truly mind-blowing to me. And I would like to hear what this moment was for you in the comments. I'm grateful that I was able to witness the rise of 3D games. Different systems like PC, the first PlayStation or the Nintendo 64 brought gaming to a new dimension during the 90s. Some were groundbreaking visually, in terms of gameplay and creatively. You could compare this leap to the switch from black and white TV to color. Video games can offer a kind of fascination that is different and unique to anything else. The experience is what makes the hobby so unique. Immersing yourself in something that you don't just witness as an observer or are told about through words, but rather you are an active part of it. Making decisions in seconds or even planning long-term events within the game and being able to influence the experience in various ways. Let's take a specific blast from the past as an example. Baldur's Gate 2 was a milestone, released in 2000. A game that not only offered characters, dialogue and story that were in no way inferior to those from modern novels like Game of Thrones or Gunslinger. It also combined this with decision making, with options that could change the course of the game. In addition, there was a complexity of gameplay that combined these aspects with a replayability that allows you to enjoy basically different versions of the same world and story. It's a game that is still worth a playthrough today, even with its dated visuals and controls and the existence of its highly acclaimed follow-up, built on the strengths of its predecessors. Gaming hardware adds an additional layer of fascination to me. Whether it's a desktop PC, a laptop, handheld or a retro device, it's an expensive pleasure, and often also a pain, to engage with this kind of technology. The excitement when a new console generation is released, the joy to plan your own PC build. Either the best budget machine or a custom light show. I find that very enjoyable too. Arguably, gaming reached its peak in the years following the turn of the millennium. Shortly before and during the very long Generation 7, that was the area of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The gameplay, presentation and audiovisual foundation was laid on which games are built to this day. I think it was a sweet spot between creative passion and the unfortunately necessary capitalism required to turn that passion into reality. Today, we have a huge and extremely fast-paced industry that primarily chases the dollar. It's not that there aren't good games anymore, we have more choice in quantity than ever before, and small studios can be still successful. It's also even possible for individual developers. However, considering today's technical possibilities, I can't help but feel that games should be more advanced than they are. Even though they still exist, games with a clear vision, those with a wow factor, those that are more than just consumption, more than just digital junk food, and yet on a massive scale. I think it's important to remain rational and fair. Game production is expensive, and that should be fairly compensated. But this compensation must be done with respect for the medium and its infinite possibilities, and also for its users. I can hardly express how much these greedy, passionate, big players in the industry annoy me with their unfinished games, their completely over-the-top monetization, and zero awareness of what's going on with their own products or their customers. As I mentioned before, it's about balance, which, in my opinion, has been somewhat lost, especially in the last decade. I don't know if this balance will ever happen, and honestly, it could be a topic for a whole video of its own. But at least, as players, we have the opportunity to partially influence this with feedback and what we accept. So, gaming can be absolutely incredible. I mean, how can you get closer to absurd fantasies than with video games? Always wanted to be the famous handsome MI6 guy? No problem. Ever thought about terrifying yourself with horror stories becoming reality? Alan Wake got you. And if you don't like speed limits, you can either visit Germany and the Autobahn, or you can just feel free to play. Have a fulfilling day.